Hey world.
Hey Dallas.
Welcome to Tit for Tat, this and that with Alvin.
And Charles.
So what's going on out there, world?
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter, everyone.
Happy Trans Day, Visibility.
Is that what it is? It's Trans Day?
It is Trans Visibility Day. Did you see what Caitlin said?
Caitlyn Jenner?
Yeah.
No, I don't like Caitlyn.
Oh, I don't listen to that. She's awful. So she's a trans woman, and she goes and she says, "I can't believe that Biden has declared this to be, Happy Trans Visibility Day and blah blah blah. The only thing that should be on your mind is that he is risen." And
that's what Caitlyn said?
Yeah. And I'm like, girl, do you not know that you are trans?
Well, Caitlyn's a rich white woman trans, so it's a little bit different. She thinks she's still
pick a side.
She thinks she's still a rich white man.
Pick a side.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about pronouns, that the gay gender pronoun. Well, they're not all gay gender pronouns, but it kind of what we want to talk about, like the gender pronouns. There's like 72 of them.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot. But before we do that, though, I want to talk about this, what's going on in the news with, P. Diddy. It's like everywhere.
Diddy.
Yeah, Diddy, P. Diddy, Sean Combs. He has so many aliases.
Yeah.
I guess he needs those for when he get ready to skip town, so they can't find him under this one. They did.
Right.
They might, get him under that one.
Puff Daddy. All these names. So
I kind of want to talk about that for, not long, because we'll get into our pronoun discussion here in a bit. But,
right.
I wanted to get your opinion on, what's going on with, what your opinion is, and all of you ladies and gents and them and theys and us and we's, trying to make sure I use the correct pronouns. But everybody out there in the world, in Dallas, I want to get your views and comments on a little bit of this P. Diddy situation that's going on. So allegedly, all of this, all this sex trafficking, supposedly sex trafficking drugs, there's allegedly he might have murdered, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, what's your opinion on there? I got some little questions that, a few little questions down here, about P. Diddy, and, these rich people, when you have money, you just can, it's almost like you just forget about what's going, like stuff that's going on in the world, like almost like you can't be touched or something.
Right.
And they're doing a lot of things, and I know the money can shield them for a while, but eventually the universe comes back full circle, and you know what I mean? And then here we are. It's like I guess he wasn't watching the Epstein and the Weinstein and, all of that stuff, them being arrested and investigated. And so now here we are with P. Diddy.
Right.
So, lifestyle of the rich and famous, So what do you think about that? He did come out and say, he's saying he didn't do it. He said he's a Christian man.
Oh.
We kind of touched on Christianity and stuff, in our other videos. We done touched on down low, relationships, sex workers. Mm-hmm. He kind of falls into quite a few of those videos. Our past videos we just did. Mm-hmm. In order, I know he has money, but in order he has to be a sex addict. Drug addict. I think there's sex. It sounds like there's sex addiction there, drug addiction there. Nobody's really touching on the sex addiction or drug addiction, even though, that has to be part of it, of why he's, you know what I mean? Just constantly out there looking for sex, paying for sex. He has, people out there, buying sex and stuff, like that. So what's your take on that? And do you think he's he hasn't come out and said he's bisexual or whatever. I think he's bisexual, and I think he's down low also. Mm-hmm. And we had those videos too. He falls into quite a few of those little categories to me of the videos that we have done so far. Mm-hmm. So what do you think? You think from what you're hearing and over the years, what we have heard about him, do you think he's bisexual or and down low?
Could be. I mean, I don't know. All I know is I woke up one day and he's in the news, and they're raiding his house, and they're talking about he's having these parties, and TD Jakes is there, and all these people are pretty much swallowed up. All these people are like kind of cutting ties with him, or they're coming out saying this and that or whatever. When the FBI and all those people get involved, they pretty much got some stuff on you, because they're not just gonna burst into your house and without having some kind of evidence or whatever. And then how he started relinquishing his CEO status of a lot of his companies and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, and they're stopping him in countries or wherever he was trying to go or whatever. So he's in something. But yeah, I have heard the stories that say that he plays around or whatever. I mean, so I guess he just needs his time in court like everyone else or whatever, and we'll see what comes out of it. But yeah, there's something definitely going on there.
So today, I woke up to where the feds have seized tapes. So allegedly they have seized sex tapes. And so what's concealed, what is concealed in those sex tapes could be really damaging, but but they have found allegedly they have found sex tapes. So in these sex tapes, now with Carisha, I'm confused if she was his girlfriend, because now they're saying that she wasn't his girlfriend. She was a sex worker she was sex work and trafficking for him. But then there's still those out there saying she was his girlfriend. But with these sex tapes, supposedly, allegedly, he was using these sex tapes, and then while people were there having sex, he was also recording them. Even though the sex stuff was being recorded to be on these tapes, supposedly he was also either secretly or knowingly or whatever, but he was recording the people who was having the sex also, so he can use to blackmail them to keep their mouths shut. So because some of them are were high profile figures, I guess, and then they're all at his parties, and they're all all engaging in these sex acts and drugs and stuff, like that.
My thing is, I'm a high profile person. I'm not gonna let you take me like that. I'm not gonna let you record me like that. Now, I will sign whatever you need me to sign. I think these people wanted to be recorded. See, I don't have a problem with so much of what you said. I have an issue when it came out the other day or whatever that these people are underage. That's what I have an issue about. I don't have an issue with grown people wanting to have sex and have orgies and be recorded, and they do. Have at it. Have at it. Do your thing. But when you want to include people underage, that's where I have a problem with, because you're framing them for something that they're probably not even ready for. It's like, what they call it? What's the word?
Pedophilia.
That too, but grooming. It's like you're grooming them, and you're setting them up for something like, I might not even want to go this route, especially if it's because I want to be on your record label, or what I want to make you be on my record label if you do this. Now, see, that stuff, I have a problem with that, because that's manipulation and all that. But for the grown people that were there, I think for the most part, I think most of the people knew what they were going to. They've been doing this probably for years. He's recording them or whatever. Now, he probably told them, you better not say nothing, because I got tapes.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, but I don't think it was initially supposed to be that way. I think initially we just having a good time, but then maybe if you don't scratch my back, then I can pull this out. I think now he's using that, or he may be using that as whatever, as leverage or whatever. But I don't think that's because if that's the case, I wouldn't even do it at all. I'd be like, I just do my own thing in my own house. why come to your house to be recorded for you to use it against me? I think he's just using it now because, you know, I want my way or whatever, like you say, leverage or whatever.
I think sometimes too, when people, you know, when they're, if just say they were heavily on drugs, say they're there and they're doing lots of drugs and stuff, you know, when they get disoriented, you know, their inhibitions, you know, they lose their inhibitions and stuff, and they actually ain't even thinking about that he's secretly recording them. Because from what I understand, he was secretly recording them, even though they knew, you know, they may have known they were being recorded sexually too, but he was doing some other type of videoing, like secretly recording, so he could blackmail them to keep their mouth shut about him in case anybody decided they wanted to go and, you know, and expose him. He could pull out this stuff and say, no, you're not going to expose me because I have this on you too. And that's usually enough to keep people quiet. Because a lot of times when they're doing drugs and stuff, you know, like that, they're having outer body experiences, and they, you know, they might not be just quite in their right mind, and ain't even, you know, caring whether he's actually videotaping them and stuff like that till they come down off of those drugs. But I'm curious because, you know, we know with the women, you can, you know, how many sites and different places you can pick up women, you know, for sex and stuff, you know, like that. And then they have brothels and stuff like that too. But I'm curious about these men, and if they were boys too, if they were underage boys, you know, where they're getting them from. But I'm like, are they getting these men from rentmen.com? You know, because, you know, lots of the escorts and the masseurs and guys who do porn videos and stuff, they are on that site.
Right. So, we just talked about that last week.
So is he getting them? I mean, like who's getting them for him? Because is it, you know, because they were saying like as if Carisha and some other lady were doing the sex trafficking for them, you know, getting the prostitutes and getting the underage, allegedly getting the getting the probably underage boys, and then the escorts and masseurs and stuff that are of age.
Right.
But we know that, you know, a lot of times you're either going to have to go into the gay, you know, like the gay social apps, dating apps and stuff, where you can find them in there. But most of them are on rentmen.com or masseur.com, where a lot of the gay ones are. And I'm curious, you know, who would, like if Carisha was doing that, I know she got some gay friends. I ain't gonna mention it. I ain't gonna mention their names, but were they also the ones in there who may have turned her onto and say, look here, you can go get these men from this site.
I'm sure he knows.
You know, her good gay Judy.
He knows where to go. Maybe you're talking about somebody that's like rich.
But he has somebody doing it for him.
Of course, that's rich. That's what rich people do. They don't do it themselves. They have people to go do it for him. So he's probably, and plus I'm sure he knows. He knows about the down low people. He knows about those hidden. I mean, in New York, where they have the underground stuff, I'm sure he knows all that whole life or whatever. I mean, he probably has participated or whatever in that, and then probably decided one day to move it to something private of his own. So he knows everybody knows him. So people probably in his DMs, you know, it's probably all kind of stuff. I mean, it's not gonna be hard for somebody like Puffy to get whatever he wants. You know, that people are readily available to offer their services, whether that's drugs, sex, whatever. You know, that I mean, you talking about PDiddy. I would take a PDiddy check, you know. I would take you know, direct deposit, please. You know, I would take it, you know. So yeah, I don't think it's hard. I mean, he probably did go through her, or he went through, you know, he probably just like he has people that auditions, you know, people that sit and do the auditions for his videos, and he probably has a maid, he has a chef. I mean, he probably has one particular person that goes and gets, you know, the people, a party planner or whatever.
A lot of money, they gonna do what you know. But people, they never think they're gonna get caught. It's funny. This just amazes me. Like even people with money, even people without money, they do this stuff, but they never think that the universe is gonna come full circle on them. Even though they see it happening to other people, it's like it's not clicking. Or is it clicking like, okay, I'm next because I'm doing the same shit that Weinstein and Epstein and them were, you know, kind of doing. But to me, I would say he's bisexual, and I would say he's DL because he won't come out and say it. But if you're having sex with men, if they bring, no, it's allegedly. Okay. I said allegedly. They've been saying it for years. Or whatever. They've shown different videos and stuff of him with other guys, tussling and rustling, wrestling around and playing and hugging and doing all this stuff. I mean, that doesn't make you gay or bisexual or down low. But the way he was doing it, it looked like he was enjoying it. They were enjoying it. And there's rumors and stuff out there of him with these men and stuff, like that. It's too much of it. You know what I'm saying? It's too much of it that's been going on for years, saying this for years. Or to me, I know it's allegedly out there, but to me, he's bisexual and he's down low. And to me, he really likes men. You know what I'm saying? Because also, what they're saying out there, these transcripts that they have shown, that they actually have shown that they've confiscated, actually they say that the type of the men that he's bringing in too with these big ass dicks and stuff, like that. You know what I mean? That type of stuff. There goes, hey, Slick.
Hey. Put your question up.
You think?
Your comment.
You think with all that many, he wouldn't need to lie in course?
With all that money.
Yeah, with all that money. Correct. But they do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because regardless of how much money you put up, I'm still gonna have some nervousness about it. I'm still gonna feel like uncomfortable about it. How's the scene gonna be? I'm gonna have my questions. So yeah, even though you have the money or whatever, you may have to lie and course me. But some people are way past me. They have no inhibitions that like I'll do it or whatever. So you may not have to. But he's a sly one. And most of them, like you say, most of them are. With the money, it comes because I think they think because we have the money, we can get anything we want. And that's not always the case. So with the money, you also have to have that slick tongue to like, come on, Slick. You have to have that slick tongue to like, get your way, and say the right thing at the right time, at the right, whatever. So, you would think, but yeah, sometimes money is not all it takes or whatever. So it just depends on the person. Glad you're joining us, Slick. So glad you're here. Happy Sunday.
Keep talking. I'm typing something here to Slick.
Oh, no, you're fine. So, yeah, I was just looking at some of the articles. So now they're saying that there's a lot of comparisons between him and Epstein with the yacht and everything. Of course, we said something about the house raids, and they just recently saw him whether he was spotted in Miami at a restaurant shirtless, and they got a picture of him shirtless. I don't know why he would be in a restaurant shirtless, or maybe he was at the restaurant and then he was also he was also shirtless near his home or whatever. So I guess he's like, I don't really care, which I know he does, but he's like, I still got to live my life. But he's probably gonna have the best lawyers and that money can buy or whatever. I see now they've also taken his communications, his flight records. Like they're getting all this stuff. They're building their case. They've already raided, the mansion or whatever. So he better really have his stuff together. My thing is, I know you've seen the stuff with R. Kelly. I know you've seen the stuff with Epstein or whatever. You thought you were never going to get caught. You thought you were just going to, slide under the radar all this time. You thought no one would ever come out. And I'm pretty sure there's more people that have been around him that are just holding, just sitting on information. Like, what about all the music groups he's been like Total, Faith Evans, all those people that were signed to Bad Boy, Mace, all them. I'm sure they have their stories or whatever. So he better have his stuff together because it doesn't look good for him. You know, because everybody's not lying on you. You know, everybody's not lying. And like I said, when the FBI gets involved, they're not wasting their time. If they're involved, they have something on you, and they're just building it up to drown you in court because it's all coming out.
Yeah, there goes Slick.
Okay.
We're gonna bring Slicky in as soon as we get ready to do our pronoun. Hey, Slick.
Okay, so they're in the great room right now.
All right, yeah, Slick's waving back at us. So yeah, they're in the green room. So you think? Do you think that that he's gonna be arrested? You think he's gonna go to jail?
I think so. When it comes to underage, I think so, because like I said, if you're adults, you're of age, do your thing. I mean, you know, have at it or whatever. You're grown. That's the life you have chosen. I mean, and it's your choice to do it. But when you have underage, like we talked about the Nickelodeon thing. I watched 3 other episodes last night, and it's kind of the same thing where you're getting these kids and you're grooming them, you're putting them in these crazy situations and circumstances. That's not right. So yeah, you deserve, and like this is Nickelodeon, and they, it's a kids program. You should be protecting the kids, and the parents should be there or whatever. So that's what I have an issue with. And if that's the only thing that he goes to jail for, then so be it. Because I think that is just that it's. And I think I shared on one of the shows before that I was molested, and I mean, you steal the child's innocence. You steal their view of the world, the world that they see, and you contaminate it, and you throw your illness or whatever it is, or addictions or whatever onto me. I didn't ask for that. If I wanted to go that route, let me go that route myself. Let me tiptoe into that, whatever I'm going to do it. Don't you, as an older person that should know better, don't put that on me or whatever at a young age where I'm still developing. I'm still, my brain is still forming or whatever. I don't know if I want this, and you're putting this on me. So if he doesn't go to jail for any other reason, I think so. He should go for that reason.
So, so do you think that they're after him more for the sex trafficking or more of the RICO?
I mean, well, you are dealing with these rich white people, in some form or fashion, they rule the world. It's like, we had it, and then they took it because they know we're smarter. I mean, I just want to put that in there. But anyway, yes.
Because they did say he killed somebody, allegedly.
Yeah, that's been that's been the lady and then the rap star. Yeah, that's been going on for years. That rumor's been out there, or has something to do with it,
and supposedly drugged somebody too.
Okay, we'll have to talk offline about that. But yeah, I mean, those stories never die. I mean, they're out. Even with what's the other one? Tupac. The story just never dies or whatever. So people are probably year after year finding evidence or coming out with stories. So that could be it too. I mean, we'll just have to see which way the lawyers go or whatever to see what their angle is. But if anything, that sex trafficking hits me. Yeah, I don't like that. And then murder too. Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, who are you to take someone's life? You
think he's gonna try to escape? Flee the country? I mean, he hasn't yet, but you think he's gonna try to flee the country, or is he selling? He's selling. He done sold Revolt, and
I think at this point,
he's trying to get more. I guess get money. He's eventually gonna lose all that money with all this course. Yeah. He's gonna be, if not almost broke, he's gonna be broke by the time they get through with it. And they may seize all his finances too.
Yeah.
Depending on all what comes to light. Because if any of this comes out where he did actually murdered one of those kids' mother. I don't want to mention their names, but I know everybody else has. But murdered one. Allegedly murdered one of those women. Done drugged another person whose son, who he's been raising, who he says it's his, but when you look at the pictures, it really looks like the other person. People out there know who it is. And then supposedly, he murdered somebody else too. So, or had them murdered, or whatever. Even if he didn't do it personally, he had them murdered or something, like that. So there's a lot going on. I've listened to some stuff where people think that they're going to get him on this sex trafficking because it dealt with not in addition to it being sex trafficking. They're saying there was underage, girls and boys involved in there too. So that can be they can get him on that just for it being underage, in addition to just the sex trafficking period. But then also on the RICO. And I'll read what RICO is, because some people don't know what that is, but it's it means racketeer influenced and corrupt organizations, and that's what RICO stands for, which includes mail fraud, wire fraud, and fraud in the sale of securities, which is money. However, innovative attorneys have also involved other offenses such as murder, kidnapping, gambling, arson, and robbery. I think they're going to, in addition, I think they're going after him first for this, because they haven't charged him with anything. They done raided him, they done did something, but they haven't charged him with anything, even though they have seized stuff. They haven't charged him on that sex trafficking. We hear it out there, so it's allegedly right now, because even the feds in them have said they haven't released anything on that, actually released anything about the sex trafficking. Or it might be vice versa. It might be the other way. I might be getting it wrong. It might be the other way around. I done heard so much now and done watched so much. I might be done got it twisted in the back and got it backwards. But either way, I think they're going after him. They found, they done found stuff about, this racketeering, and then stumbling upon all of that type of stuff. They've probably been watching him for years, what I mean? And stumbling upon that, they came across the sex trafficking. And if they can't get him on one, they're going to get him on the other. So I think he's eventually going to somehow probably going to end up in jail with right next to Weinstein and Epstein. Well, Weinstein killed himself, didn't he? Yeah, one of them killed himself, or got murdered, but he's going to end up in jail next to them. So, but what about these accomplices? Like Carisha and the other lady. What about them? Do you think they would end up going to jail too? And the people who helped him with the sex trafficking? Because eventually all of these names are going to come out. Because if these people were at his sex parties, and drug parties, and this went on for years and years, some big names are going to come out of that. That helped him with this type of stuff. So it's going to be more.
We'll see what happens. We have to just wait, so we don't want to keep them waiting too long. But we'll follow the story, because it seems like it's getting very interesting. Like every day there's something. Like I just haven't been really on it that long. I mean, been following it that much, but I will though. So we can come back and just discuss it a little bit further or whatever. But yeah, it's getting very interesting. Yeah. Hey, Slick.
Hey, Slick.
Hey. Yeah,
I like Slick and Spacious, so Slick told me earlier. Yeah, they said call me Slick.
Okay.
And then I went back and I said, well, okay, I'll call you Slick. I said, but I also like Slacious. So.
Right. Yeah.
Thanks.
So we're going to get into this, into our pronoun, the gender pronouns. It's a sticky. It can be a sticky conversation and situation. So I got the definition up here of pronouns. A word that can function by itself as a noun, phrase, and that refers either to the participants in the discourse.
And not only, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but not only sticky, but it's always progressing too. It's always growing. It almost seems like it's new because we were so, you know, accustomed to just he and she. Now it's like it's grown into all this other stuff, and you know, this person likes this or they prefer this, so it's just constantly growing too. So it is something that, you know, I think needs to be addressed, and I'm glad we're covering it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, and it says, you know, i.e. example, I, you, or to someone or something mentioned elsewhere in the discourse. Example, she, it, this. A third person pronoun. It seems like I'm missing something here. A third person pronoun.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so that's the, you know, that's the definition that we grew up with, as you know, growing up with in school, what we learned in school, what a pronoun was.
Yeah.
You know, and then the gender pronouns came along.
Yeah.
You know, and myself, I don't have a problem calling anybody anything, whatever they want to be called.
Yeah.
I have no problem with it at
All
all.
respect.
Yeah, you know, I think sometimes it's just though you don't know. Sometimes we can tell, like, you know, just say for instance, if we go to a drag show or something, right? Then, you know, or we see, if we see drag queens, like when they're in drag, we know to call them she, right? If they're out of drag, you know, that, you know, they're not called she, they're a he outside of drag, because it's just a performance, right? It's just, that's
put on a show.
you know, they're putting on a show.
It's an act.
But then, right. But then, so then, or when we see trans, you know, so it could be trans men, trans women. So if I see a trans man, if I see a trans woman, or a person that's trans, which they, you know, they can be non-binary or go by different pronouns too. Just because they're trans doesn't mean that they go by he or she or whatever. You know what I mean? But when I see, you know, so let me tell you what I said to Slick when I saw. So when I saw Slick, you know, I went back to Slick's videos and I watched several of them. So the first one I watched, though, when I looked at Slick, I thought Slick was a woman. You know, I just didn't, you know, because women, you know, they wear makeup and they don't wear makeup and stuff, you know, because makeup can transform you into this. And without makeup, you know, but doesn't mean just because you don't wear you know, just because you're not wearing makeup or whatever, that, you know what I mean? So what I told Slick, I said, well, I thought you were a woman, you know, and then, but then when I went back and looked at the other videos, you know, some of the earlier videos, because from what I went back, it looked like I went back 9 years. So, but I was looking at some of the other ones, and then Slick looked more androgynous to me, like where, you know, it, you know, they could have been a woman, or they could have been a man. You know, whatever, depends on, you know, because I saw Slick where when Slick had facial hair, you know, and then I saw where Slick had facial hair where it was trimmed and then it was cut to one side, and then this one was this side looked completely shaved, and then this one wasn't. You know, but here's the other thing though. But women can grow facial hair, even if they're not trans, you know, or whatever, they can still grow facial hair.
Most of our grandmothers have.
So, but to me, I don't know. To me, when I looked at Slick, they looked like a woman to me. And I saw Slick with cornrows, different type of hairstyles, and different ones gave Slick different looks. But I'm gonna let Slick explain, you know, because then I came back and said, oh, now I understand the they and the them. And I still might be wrong, but when I saw the they and them, I was going off of Slick, Slacious. So I was thinking that, you know, in my mind, I'm like, okay, so Slick would be like a male gender. Slacious sounds more like, I could be wrong. Slacious sounds more like a female, you know, like, you know how females like, you know, and but gays, they slay too. You know, gays will say, you know, I slay, and you know, whatever. but then when you put that shus on there, that slacious, it sounds delicious. You know, it sounds like, you know how women can, you know, how they refer to themselves. You know,
Men
like,
can be delicious too, because I
yeah. So, like I said, I could be wrong, but I'm gonna let Slick tell us, you know, you know, what the they in them is. But I'm assuming that Slick is Slick and Slay is that's, you know, I'm assuming the male and female
Well,
part
let's find out.
of
Explain.
Slick, but you know, it may be, I could be totally wrong, you know,
Okay.
you know, whatever. But I got scrolling down there also a little definition of the gender pronouns. But I'm gonna, and then we'll get in some more of the discussion of the pronouns. But I want to see what Slick has to say here, because they, you know, they were so gracious to, you know, come join us today.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, so the Slick and Salacious, it was just, you know, on YouTube trying to figure out what I'm gonna put down, and it's one of those things, you know, some of the haters, they'd be like, oh, you think you're so slick, huh? And then it was around the time that, you know, everybody was, you know, Slayer and Beyonce came out with her album. So I figured, you know, I do be slick, and when I'm slick, it's slang. So, and I'm just slick sometimes. So, you know.
So why do the people say? So why do people be saying, "You think you slick"? What do you be slick about?
I just be factual sometimes, and I don't. It's like a lot of times I don't even be trying to do it on purpose. It's just, you know, sometimes, honestly, sometimes, you know, people just don't like the truth, and you tell them, like, you know, what's what, and then, you know, or you know, they feel easily attacked, and so again, sometimes it's not even about them, but they'll feel like, oh, you know, it's directed at them or something like that. So, you know, it is what it is, especially when, you know, just, you know, trying to or having to live or be a different way. Some people just kind of take it personally, but yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I use they them pronouns. I'm non-binary. And yeah, and so I've actually used they them pronouns. Like, I'm glad you know, I came out the closet as non-binary, I guess more publicly at least. Because nobody, that's another thing, nobody ever really asks you, you know, oh, are you a man or not?
Right.
So yeah, like the last few years or whatever. But you know, I've always known, just like I always knew I was androsexual, and so I would always use in the past they them pronouns when I finally got enough courage to talk about, you know, a potential love interest, but didn't want to reveal the gender. And so then that way it was just something easily to be like, oh, you know, they're just so beautiful or whatever, and you know, a little bit, but not really go too much in detail, because it's like gender neutral. You know, it's something you can use for anybody. Or for instance, I heard a good example today, like, you know, if somebody, you know, lost their wallet or something like that, you'll say, oh, they left this there, you know, so in that sense being like, you know, gender neutral. So yeah.
Okay, so that's why you. So I was totally wrong then. so so um so ge- hmm. So gender. So how is, so if somebody, so when somebody approaches you and they don't know your name, right? And and you told us to call you Slick, but they, you know, we know that's not your, you know, your name given to you by your parents or whatever. So if somebody doesn't know you and then they're coming up to you to have a conversation with you, how should they address you? I mean, do you tell them right off, or what if they assume that you are a woman? You know, to me you look, you know, to me you look like a young woman, you know, but or if they came up to you and addressed you as a, as a man, like if they said he, how do you handle that? Do you like right away? Do you say no, I'm they or I'm them, or do you, how does that work?
Yeah, generally, it depends. If it's like just somebody, like for instance, I'm at a restaurant or something, I probably won't even correct them either way, just because they're going to be gone in 30 minutes or so. So yeah, but like if it's like a coworker or like family or somebody that's potentially a friend, then I'll let them know that I'm non-binary, and so I use they them pronouns. And so then a lot of times there's a whole conversation about, well, what does it mean to be non-binary, and this, that, and the other. Then I have to remind people, gender, sex, and sexuality is a spectrum. So for instance, I don't know if this is a common thing y'all have heard as well, but I know I've heard a lot of queer folk, AMAP folk, people who were born assigned male at birth, talk about how they naturally started to grow breasts. And so that's an instance in which, like I say, sex is a spectrum. It's not as binary as we think. And then there was also a movie that came out recently. I wish I remembered the name. It was Everybody, I think that was the name of it. And so it was essentially a documentary about intersex people's fight with the system, and how the system tried to categorize them as one or the other, and then surgeries and all that sort of stuff. So it's one of those things where I think we just have to remember, like, yes, we might have all had biology or sex ed 101, but the real world is a lot more complicated and messy, and so there is nuances, intersections, spectrums that the scientific taxonomy, which is how they classify and label things, it might not necessarily cover. And on top of that, because we're humans, if scientists knew everything, we wouldn't have a job because there would be nothing else to learn. So there is, every once in a while we might have to update this, that, and the other. And so I try to be and afford grace to people that are realizing, like, oh, I have to update my learning on this, that, and the other. So
yes. So because we were going to talk about that too, like like people who don't know and then they say the wrong pronoun, and then some of them feel like they're being attacked, or you're malicious. Not you, but people are malicious to them because they didn't address you that way. But so when you said that, like, say you were born male, not you, but say somebody was born male and they had male genitalia, because and then you said like then all of a sudden as they get older they start growing breasts. Would that be like would we kind of fall into the intersex gender, with like the gender intersex? I know we don't use the word hermaphrodite anymore. I know there are creatures out there that are real hermaphrodites, but humans really can't be classified as hermaphrodites. But I know we use, instead of the hermaphrodite term, now we use the term intersex when they do have both like maybe have both either internal or external organs, or they're growing breasts. Now some people grow breasts because they it could be a genetic or something, like a genetic
the spectrum,
it could be that. But gynecomastia, that some people have gynecomastia.
I follow a dude that has that.
Yeah. Nico Aesthetics.
Is that his name?
Nico has that.
No, not him. It's he's not real famous or whatever.
What'd you say?
I follow Nico, but I forgot.
You know Nico? I think I follow him, but that's not the one I was thinking of. It's some other guy. He's not really famous, but I follow his Snapchat and whatever. And everyone always thinks he's a girl or used to be a girl because he has the breast or whatever.
And then in surgery, we have fixed a lot of people, who have had men who have had gynecomastia.
Yeah.
We have fixed a lot of them, and some of them choose not to do anything about it. You know what I mean? But the ones who want to be, want that, we can, we have fixed, we have fixed before. But so the intersex, so if they, I grew up with the term hermaphrodite, and then and I always wondered, as they were growing up, I know their parents would not let them, their parents sometimes decided what they wanted them to be, instead of the person themselves saying, no, I feel like I'm a female, or I feel like I'm a male, or I just feel like I'm both. You know what I'm saying? And with the parents, sometimes we go and make them have surgery at a young age to, to correct what they call correct that. But so can you elaborate a little? Do you know anything about the intersex or whatever? Can you elaborate on what maybe that might,
yeah, I mean, I know a little bit. So I do know usually it's definitely inclusive of people whose primary sexual characteristics might be more ambiguous. So, that's the genitalia. Some people include people who have more ambiguous, secondary sexual characteristics like breasts or beards and things of that nature.
Right.
So yeah, I did also think when I was learning about it, like how sad it was that they performed some of those surgeries on them when they were so young, because some of them, like when it comes to surgery, it's a lot of times hard to undo, and also some of them actually could have had they not had that particular type of surgery. So yeah, it's definitely an ordeal in the sense of how society treats intersex people. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, for me, being non-binary, it's one of those things where I really try to get people to realize like the conscious sort of spiritual sort of aspect of it, in the sense that because we know sex and gender and even the human brain is really complex, even if your primary and secondary characteristics aren't ambiguous, that still doesn't say much about your mind and things like that. And there's also been studies around that in regards to what anatomical parts or neural anatomical parts people have when they're trans versus when they're cisgendered. So and there's also history around this. Multiple cultures outside of the US that had histories of third genders, and so, yeah.
They froze, yeah. Oh, there you go.
You're back. You're back.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, what part did y'all leave off at?
Like you were talking about the non-binary, and how do you get? So I think you've explained it, how you got to be, you call yourself non-binary, and you say you're trans also, though, right?
Yeah. So trans being, what you're transitioning to or from. And so in that sense, I transitioned out of, my signs at birth into non-binary. I mean, there's also I guess it's trans more so in the social sense because, there's different discussions around, transness. But I guess I just want to make sure that I'm accurately reflecting my own history and that I've always thought of myself as non-binary. It's more so in the sense of transitioning, it's more so the social part of, letting people know about my non-binariness. And so, yeah.
Because when I was watching your videos, you like to, so non-binary, so you like to express at different times, you like to express different sides of yourself that way. Like sometimes you like to express the male side, and sometimes you like to express the female side, but you're transitioning more towards the female side?
No, the transition is just like letting people know that I'm not cisgendered. Um,
Mhm.
Especially when you think about primary sex characteristics, I'm not cisgendered in that way. Um, and so, and when you think about like non-binary, and I guess another thing we have to keep in mind is like, for instance, the white supremacist patriarchal, theocratic imperialist sort of system, and how they tried to wash out stories of every different type of person, and so like that's why people are now just starting to realize like, oh yeah, there's always been third genders and this, that, and the other. And so in that ignorance, or let's say lack of knowledge, to not sound so harsh, I do feel like there has been different labels that have popped up because people were so siloed and sectioned off. And now that we're finally able to all be out and open and not only have local community but like national community, that's where you're seeing a lot of different terms come up. So for instance, like gender fluid, I also identify with that. And gender fluid is essentially saying like, well, the gender might fluctuate, within a day or, however often, but then there's people that, identify as agender, as in not necessarily having a gender. And to the extent, like I said, we've been trained to forget these, third genders in that sense, yeah, they don't have a gender.
Right.
So yeah, so I just use the non-binary as a general, catch-all for somebody that's not cis and also not like a man or a woman.
Okay. So then you said earlier you were aerogender, right? Did you say aerogender or Evie? What did you say?
Gender fluid.
Gender fluid. So not aerogender, right?
That's a new one for me.
Oh,
like I say,
okay.
yeah, there's a lot of them. Like I say, yeah, there's a lot of different ones. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking. Here they are now. Because I was thinking of, I don't know if you probably have, but you heard like Miss Netta and Charles.
Your lunch is ready.
and then so like I was watching stuff on Miss Netta and Charles, and then I'm gonna just scroll these little down here a little bit so people they can see the different pronoun genders. And then while I'm talking, it says it's 72 of them, but I think now there's 78. But
it's gonna continue to grow,
and that's fine.
Yeah.
But so when I was listening to Miss Netta and Charles, first I was watching it on TGIF with T.S. Madison was on there at the time, and T.S. Madison asked Miss Netta, was she part of the community, which she meant the LGBTQIA plus community, and then on there I heard Miss Netta say, yes, I'm part of the community. But then a few days later, she was upset.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. I don't even actually know what pronouns to use for Miss Netta, except for her, because I would see her dressed in, like a woman and stuff, and that's what I had seen her present herself as. But then she said that she doesn't present herself as a woman. She said she doesn't go out like that, but I've seen her out like that.
Right.
But she says she doesn't go out like that, and then depending on where she is how she presents herself, And then I was wondering if she's not, if Miss Netta doesn't say she's a she, and doesn't say she's a he, and doesn't say they or them, I was wondering if Miss Netta, I mean, I don't know if Miss Netta would have to answer that question.
Seems like she's going more of the non-binary route. Like, I don't want to be defined as whatever. And it seems like when T.S. Madison asked that question, she was asking for the public. And I don't think Miss Netta has ever been asked that before. And when she said, she's like, I'm one of them. But then I think she probably regretted that, because then the people in her hometown started, sending her stuff, asking her questions and stuff. And she's like, And she explains to the people in her hometown, she's like, I'm who I am.
Right.
This is what you see.
I don't identify.
Right. I'm not either one. What you see when you see me out at the store, at the Dollar General, the Dollar Tree, the Walmart, the whatever, this is who I am. I don't identify with none of it. So I'm just non-binary, you know.
So would that make Miss Netta aerogender? It says aerogender. It says aerogender. This gender identity changes according to one's surroundings. So depending on where Miss Netta is where her gender would change.
Has she ever?
Sort of fluid, you know.
Has she ever? So the thing is, I think the thing is that she puts Miss on there. She puts Miss Netta.
Yeah, she put Miss.
But has she ever presented herself as a woman though? Even though I have the look. Yeah, you know, I'm in women's clothes. I mean, they look like women's clothes every time I see her. She's in women's clothes, or what we would, you know, so the society would say women's clothes. But have I ever said that I'm female or that I'm presenting as a miss? She's kind of like, I don't know.
But when I heard her on I'm just gonna say her until
she
until
today
till you know. Till Ms. Netta says that what, you know, exactly, or may not ever say, but Ms. Netta said that she said I am in the community and did say that, you know, I go by Ms. Netta. So that Miss sounds like a, you know, MISS or MRS.
It's,
you know,
female.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me. But then later on, Miss Netta came back and seemed like she was mad at T.S. Madison for putting her in that category. And then she said a few things, you know, whatever. And then came back and like, I'm not in the community and I don't fit into any of that. And I don't, you know, I'm just Miss Netta. I'm just me.
Right. It's
which
just
means
a persona,
like, like, is that like a drag queen? You know, would it be like a drag queen then? You know how when they're on stage like performing, like Miss Netta is cooking, you know, and performing and doing all that type of stuff, then she's a miss. But outside of that, is it Mr.
Right.
or whatever Miss Netta's real name is,
like,
or you know,
like this is just for TV. This is just for TikTok. You know what I mean? This is just something we just do. We're performing, and then when the cameras are off, you know, I'm whatever.
Yeah, and then or the person does not consistently adhere to one, you know, gender fluid. You know what Slick was saying. You know, the person does not consistently adhere to one fixed gender and may have many different genders.
Yeah.
That could fit Miss Netta. I mean, I don't know. You know, and then I had another one down here that I thought maybe it could be right down here, mirror gender. You know, changing one's gender type based on the people surrounding. So, you know, I mean, I don't.
But why would you do that?
That's actually kind of like a real thing. I have to define the exact study, but people's like testosterone or estrogen levels can be influenced by external factors, including other people. So yeah, and there's also, for instance, like I think it's the clownfish, where if there's like too many males in a space, one will turn female and vice versa.
Oh yeah, they do.
Yeah.
You know,
there's so much we don't know.
Okay, you know what? You know, Slick, when you said that, you know, because I watch a lot of nature programs. I love, you know, I'm a Pisces, so I love nature and fish.
Right.
Back here. I was just watching a program. I was just watching a program where the fish, they start off as all of them start off as females, and then when they get ready to, you know, the spawn or whatever, then these fish end up turning. Some of them, not all of them, but they'll turn. You know, they turn aggressive and stuff, you know, like that, and they turn into males. You know, but they all start off as females, and you can't really tell which one is a male. Neither one of them are male or female at the time. They're just female. Well, they're all female. But then when it comes time to the spawning, the females turn, you know, some of them turn into males and they get the big old bulbous head. The color comes into the fins, you know, and then they turn into the male, you know. So when you said that, that just reminded me of that. But
And when they said that too, it reminded me of their little reptile that changes colors when it's closer, like a different, like if
The
it's close to
chameleon.
red, it changes red or whatever. So it's
Mhm.
like whatever I need to be at the moment or at the time, I will become that. You know, what? I was like, oh, okay, cool.
So unidentified jelly bean said, "Wow." Can you tell us? Can you tell us what you mean when you say "wow"? Undefined. Can you tell us what you mean by "wow"?
This is really good. Like,
and then
so so I put that up.
You put this question.
I put that up. No, it wasn't really a question, but from what Slick was saying, when you asked about the trans part, I got that you really wasn't saying that I'm becoming a trans person. It's just that when I mention trans, is that I'm transitioning to the them and they. Is that kind of like that's what I was getting?
Yeah. So so yeah, it's essentially stating that my gender identity isn't what was assigned at birth.
Yes.
And so in that sense, there's a transitioning happening.
Yeah. Exactly. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I do also think related to Miss Netta, there's a certain like cultural factor that's involved in as well. That can be really, I don't know too much about Miss Netta particularly, but I was just thinking, well, maybe she has, if she's gone out, and appearing female, maybe for her local community, it's more understood. Well, we'll refer to her as Miss then, but in more direct interpersonal interactions as maybe he him. So again, it's one of those instances where with all the oppression going on, and like I said, we're just finally getting a little breathing room. Like just let her have her breathing room.
Woosah.
Yeah, or but I saw Miss Netta in a bathing suit. I saw her in a string bikini, in a string bikini, yelling at Charles in the pool. Because did you see that? Where Miss Netta was yelling at Charles because supposedly he was booed up and hugging up on some other woman in the pool.
Oh no!
I'll show you the picture of it. And then so even then I was questioning. I wasn't questioning whether Miss Netta, about the pronouns or whatever, because to me, I'm just seeing a woman.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You said one.
In Miss Netta, if Miss Netta has on wig and makeup and all that other stuff, to me, Miss Netta looks like a woman. And then if you have on that's what I see. Miss Netta, it could be totally different, but
I see where she's going and what she's trying. And I don't mean to be. I was tit for tat, so I don't mean to be mean or cruel or whatever. But I mean, I get what you're saying. So, but yeah.
So this is where this right here. To me, when I look there, I see a woman.
Let me get closer. Let me see.
Yeah, I see a woman. I mean, I just see a woman. That's she
got a whole after what's called it after 5 or whatever. No man.
But still, what Miss Netta is presenting there to me, she has on a woman's bathing suit. That's a string. That's a bikini.
Yeah, you're cross dressing. Yes.
Yeah, and she's yelling at Charles. So to me, that's not a drag queen to me. Because I see every time I see Miss Netta is in women's clothing mostly, and that's outside of when she's cooking. When Miss she's outside of cooking and ain't at a restaurant or nothing. She's out there yelling at Charles.
I think it's also a way in which we see like how transphobia can impact cis women as well, because to me, Miss Netta do look like some elders.
Right.
So yeah, again, there's a thing that everybody's unique and different. Sexual expectations, gender expectations vary, and so yeah, just like we said in the beginning, just give them their respect and let them live.
Okay. Let's see what we got here with this comment. There's Dre. Dre said, "My Lord."
Yeah.
He talked about Miss Netta,
And I can hear him in this country.
and it's not even that Miss Netta, it's out. It's just like, to me, I'm like, why you got on that string bikini, out there yelling at Charles? So to me, that looks like a woman. I mean, if you got on a string bikini, but you're saying that that you're not female, that you don't go by female or whatever. But I guess you can wear whatever you want. People wear whatever they want and express themselves how they want to express it.
I wonder if the issue is not so much that you are I'm trying to say this. Not so much that you. Let me collect my thoughts because I've been drinking too. It seems like they may have a problem.
I say pass it over here.
Right here. I told y'all, get your drink because we're about to have a conversation. It's almost like I feel like she has I keep saying she, that they have a problem with you. I don't know, just don't gender me. Just don't even though I say Miss Netta, even though I look a certain way, just let me be me. I think that's where the issue comes with her or them.
And I think that's part of the heart of the issue with like gender and pronouns, because I feel like a lot of times it's back to what I was talking about the conscious or spiritual aspect. If we're really trying to refer to people in a way that's insightful to who they are, then we should be doing it in regards to gender. If you're trying to refer to people based on their genitals, then it's like, well, why are you doing that? And so, which becomes the case, well, shouldn't we use like gender neutral terms for everybody? Which, if I don't know what their gender is, I'll generally default to they, them, because it's gender neutral, which might also help about clear up some of the other pronouns that aren't as well known. I have a certain amount of sympathy and respect for them because, like, for instance, I chose they, them pronouns because, again, when I was younger, that was a pronoun that everybody knew could be gender neutral. And so in regards to less work on education, that sort of stuff, that's why I went with that. But yeah, there are other pronouns that would be more specific to those specific genders or agender, gender fluid, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, so if we don't know a person's gender, or if for some reason you think he, she should only refer to somebody's genitals, then again, generally we should be referring to people as they, them.
Right.
Because like, you're not my doctor, so why you need to know that? And again, it definitely comes back into play when you talk about, like intersex people, androgynous people, where it's not as easy for people to guess, or even, like we were saying, with Miss Netta, people might guess the wrong thing. And so again, why are you trying to refer to my genitals? So I think you're breaking up a bit. Oh, looks like you're on mute.
Yeah. This AT&T, this internet, I pay for the highest one they got,
right.
And then it just
man-made.
It's just constantly messing up sometimes, this AT&T internet Wi-Fi. So sorry, folks.
But also with the Miss Netta thing too is I believe she's of a certain age, just like I am. We're of a certain age. I know who I am. At this point in my life, I know who I am. I know what I present as or whatever. So why are we even discussing, what I am? I think that's an issue too. Like, if she did get upset, I thought she got more upset with the out. When that question was asked, not so much that the question was asked, but the repercussions of that question. Because then everybody, especially her community, whatever, I think it's like, I know who I am. Why are you even asking me if it's this or that? It's this. It's what I'm presenting. So it shouldn't even be that. So I think that's what the anger or the whatever comes from, is like, that shouldn't even be on the table. You know what I mean? But it can be deceiving if I see you with an after 5. I mean, I can see that there's a beard that should be there. You just shaved it. So I think T.S. Madison, in all honesty and all, innocence, that she was just trying to get clarification. But I think Ms. Nella was like, I know who I am, and you should too. So why is that even coming up? But it's gonna come up sometimes,
Well,
Connected world, yeah.
Yeah, right.
But if Miss Netta, if you said that I know who I am and you should too, but if Miss Netta says one thing and then comes back and say the other, how do you know?
Right, you're confused.
Because she did. It did sounds like she contradicted herself from earlier to later. When the comments and stuff started coming in and people started asking questions, and then it got fully blown out there in the universe, and then that's when Miss Netta, I don't know if somebody came and said something to her and set Miss Netta off, but then Miss Netta came back and did a correction to T.S. Madison to say, no, this, I'm not in the community like that, and I'm not a female, I listened to it, and it kind of threw me off, but I just didn't know. But I'm like, you tell me if I don't know, then if you tell me, I'm gonna call you by whatever pronoun or name you would like me to call you. It's no skin off my back, whatever.
And I think that's all T.S. Madison was trying to get. Like, what would you like to be called or whatever? And that's what we all should be, out of respect. What would you like to be called? Once you find out that you may have misgendered someone, just ask.
So I got this picture up here. Tell me what y'all think about this, though. The Wadabi, are a nomadic tribe that live in territory that spans Niger, Cameroon, Nigeria, and Chad. The men spend hours doing their hair and makeup to impress the women and steal the men's wives. Now, these are straight heterosexual, whatever. I'm assuming
men.
Those are men.
Well, there's some good looking men.
But they, but they would still go by. So they would still go by like he and him, I guess. Whatever. And they're not trans. Okay. They're basically would be more. We have men that are that dressed up like women and they're straight. Those are transvestites, right?
Now this is in Africa.
I think more like cross-dressing.
I wonder what is the reason behind this. Like, is this for religious reasons? Is it like?
No, it says it right here. That's what I put down there.
You said this right here. The men spend hours doing their hair. The men spend hours doing their hair and makeup to impress the women and steal the men's wives. But I want to know the why behind that. Like, I know this is what you do, but why are you doing it? Is this like some ritual you do? Is this something that's been going on for years? Like, what was the meaning behind all of this? Because what I see is art, and I see you just being. If I didn't know the history behind it, I was just saying they're just being, they're just expressing themselves. But I wonder, because most African things have a history behind it, or it's some kind of meaning that we might not understand. Yeah, it's on purpose, right? So I would like to know like what it is. But just a picture, I have no problem with it. They look gorgeous. And they're able to steal the men's wives. So that means they're wives. So if you're stealing the men's wives, the wives lesbian.
And see, now I'm getting ready to go off on another topic because we were talking about the hormone fluctuations.
So probably once they steal the men's, if they're able to steal the men's wife, maybe they take the makeup and stuff off, and then they become the women's husbands or whatever because they stole. I don't know. I'm gonna go look at you.
You could have stole my wife just being a man. But you have to put this
is their practice. So I guess they may have been doing this over centuries or something. If this is their practice,
right.
I'm gonna go I'm gonna go
Please.
into that further. I'll go
Yes.
into that further. But I came across that and I was like, oh wow, because actually when you think about it, men, I know women sometimes get upset with trans, or whatever, because they use the term women when they, for like trans women. I know sometimes straight women, and some straight women don't like the term cis, CIS.
Right.
They don't like that term. And
Yeah.
and they get upset with with trans women for saying that they're women, or some of the stuff that they say they are saying, like they have periods or they have
Ovaries.
Yeah, they have ovaries and they can breastfeed and stuff, like that. I hear that more in the black, the black straight women community than I hear it out of the white folks. Now they got their own issues and stuff, like that. They're more. I know the whites have an issue with pronouns. They seem like they have a big issue with the pronouns. But within the black community, to me, when heterosexual women, or I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but what they say, biological women, black women, a lot of them, because I got into it a little bit with Claudia Jordan off of TGIF. I had sent a thing because when she was going off a few months ago about the trans stuff, even though she's not, I don't believe she's transphobic or anything like that. But it was just the comments that were flying through the chat, and the women were just going off. I mean, they just were saying a lot of hateful things and stuff, like that. So what I had said to Claudia basically was, dressing in drag and makeup and all that stuff, it's not exclusive to women, because the pharaohs and the kings in Africa and all those places, they have been putting on makeup and dresses and stuff way back in ancient history.
Right.
It's just now, somehow it's like it's a taboo for men to put on makeup or whatever, or whatever. But men have been dressing like that. The kings and the queens. Some of the kings were prettier than the queens sometimes, or whatever, or had on more regalia and stuff than what the queens and stuff did. But it's not new for men to put on makeup. And it doesn't mean that they're gay.
Right.
They could be. Doesn't mean that they're trans. Or whatever. They could be. Or whatever. People have to tell you what they are. Or let you know what they want to be called or whatever. But me and her. She came back and sent me a little sort of a nasty comment, and I sent her one right back. But then it kind of ended there.
Wow.
But this was months ago. But
Online spec.
yeah, a little online spec. That's she's the only one I've ever had that with. And when I sent it out, I wasn't trying to have a spat with her. I was just giving her the history, because she was saying that men should not be dressing, like men dressing in drag. She didn't say they shouldn't, but it was more like, trans women are you're not real women. You're taking, and for you to come out there and say this, whatever. And all trans women weren't saying that. Some were, some were just egging her on,
Right.
but all of them weren't saying that. They were saying we're trans women, and it was just a whole issue. I'll have to get into that another time. But
Yeah.
But anyway, but she had a problem with the word cis. That's what started it off too. She had a problem with being called, why are you calling us cis? And instead of, now we're cis instead of women. We're cis women instead of women. And then even though this really just meant, what, never mind. You go ahead,
Basically,
Flip, or Charles, what y'all got to say about that?
That's on the side.
yeah. With the guys that were dressing up and stealing the wives and stuff, that reminded me, actually, again, when we're talking about hormonal changes and things like that, there were studies that show within a certain time of a woman's cycle, she'll be less attracted to rugged men and more attracted to I guess less rugged men, if you know what I mean. And so that's just a part of their natural cycle, with periods and everything. And I remember hearing about that story as well. But yeah, I remember they were saying, like, essentially they were saying, like, women didn't own periods because, you know, trans men can also have periods in birth. So
Right.
yeah, and so I mean, you know, I try to sympathize with, with how they might feel given the history of sexism and stuff like that. So, but yeah, but at the end of the day, it was like, you know, they're still, nobody's saying they're not women. They're just
Right.
women and cis women, like they're both simultaneously. And
Right.
so yeah, it's one of those things I just like, you know, just look up the you know, Latin term, or, you know, the scientific term. But then that's a whole nother thing with the internet, and how if you don't do your research right, you might end up in
And it's always a fear of what you don't understand or what you don't get. And it's new. It's like, why all of a sudden we're called this? We've been called this for so long. Now you want to change it. So I think, you know, it's just a misunderstanding. And it's, to me, I feel like, and I don't know because I'm not a woman, to me, I feel like they think that trans women are a threat. And I'm like, I don't see how that could be personally, because if I was a straight man and you know, and a woman, a cis woman is going to give me an experience that a trans woman is not going to give me. You know, to each his own. But I just feel like there's going to be a different experience between the two. So there's no threat there. You know, if I'm feeling you, then you're going to give me something. If I'm feeling you, you're going to give me something. So there's no threat there. But for some reason, I feel like they feel like there's a threat there, and no one's trying to take your place, because, you know, no one's trying to, you know, remove you out of the whole, you know, thing or whatever. You still have your place. I'm not a threat. If anything, I admire you, because when I think of how I want to look and how I want to portray, because, you know, you have these female impersonators or even drag queens or whatever. They perform like some of the biggest stars. Like you have one, like she's the #1 Beyonce impersonator. So to me, that tells me you look up to be, like, you love everything about her womanness. You know, that's a word or whatever. So it's not like I'm trying to replace you, or that, you know, I feel like you're the enemy or whatever. I admire you. Like you are the prototype or whatever. And I'm just trying to, you know, fit in there or whatever. So I'm not upset with you. I'm not mad at you. I'm not trying to replace you or whatever. But I think to them it's like, oh, you know, you're trying to remove me, or you think you're better or whatever. I don't know, but yeah, it's crazy.
I feel like that's another reason why, you know, it's good to remind people that, you know, when it comes to the innateness, the naturalness of transness, there's some there. Like I said, the different studies and stuff, because it's not like, you know, oh, it's just gonna be, you know, in vogue to be trans one day and everybody's gonna go get surgery. Like, no. Like,
exactly.
know, yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, innate to, you know, who we are. So it's not, you know, anything that you have to, you know, worry about, or and like I said, also there's other societies that had established third gender you know, representation, and again, there still was plenty, you know, bio women, cis women, all that. So again,
just want to argue for argument's sake.
I think we answered this question. Slick answered it also. You know, what if I accidentally use the wrong pronouns? It's, you know, some people, you know, like, I guess some, you know, like if you accidentally use it or whatever, you know, like, don't attack the people if they don't know, because if it's definitely two, and then there's more being added. You know, I don't even know, you know, I just know a few, and then Slick has enlightened me, you know, on them and they, you know what I'm saying? So, and you know, I know I can slip up and say the wrong, you know, the wrong one too. And then now sometimes there are people who do use the pronoun, they know the pronoun, you know, the right pronoun to say, and they intentionally do it to cause harm.
So it's not an accident.
To embarrass the person. Right. You know, and then, but then a lot of times I do think some people just don't know. You know what I'm saying? And then they might say the wrong thing, you know, or whatever. And I in my personal feeling is, you know, and I think Slick said the same thing too. I think you probably agree too. You know, you don't have to be malicious toward them. You can just tell them, you know, I would prefer to be, you know, referred to as this, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then hopefully they'll oblige, but some people aren't going to oblige. You know what I mean? They're like, no, you know, I'm just going to call you, like Craig the writer says, I'm just going to call you by your name. You know, Craig the writer Stewart says, I'm not going to use them or they, you know, or whatever, you know, he or him or she or her or whatever. I'm just going to call you by your name. Yeah. But then that goes into the, you know, the thing is, what if you don't know their name? You know what I'm saying? What if they have not given you their birth name or the name that either legal name or the name they changed?
Say it again. What if they haven't given you? I said, say it again. What if they haven't given you their?
Right. So there it is. You know.
Yeah.
You know, it's sometimes it can. You know, I guess it can be a dilemma, but
it's just respect.
I mean, you know, you take Flame Monroe. You know, Flame Monroe says, you know, I'm a he, she, we. You know, that's what, you know, I'm he, she, we. So, and I think Flame only dates women or something, doesn't it?
You said he, she, we.
Flame says that
so they wouldn't be offensive by anything then that you call them, because they're saying you can call me the he, you can call me the she, or the we. So there really shouldn't be any issue there.
I thought they meant the whole thing. The he, she, we.
She, we.
Yeah, it's like
yeah, I don't know, but yeah, Flame says all the time. She said, "I'm a he, she." She says it in her comedy routine. I'm a he, she, we. So I guess when Flame is dressed, but Flame has, you know, Flame has boobs, you know, and I've seen Flame out of drag, you know, or whatever, not dressed as a woman. That Flame says she's trans, you know. I don't know if I heard her say whether she was non-binary, you know, or whatever. But Flame does say I am a he, she, we. You know, just like T.S. Madison says I'm a trans woman. You know, I have titties at the top and dick at the bottom.
But I'm he, she.
But I'm a
she.
she.
Right.
Yeah, you don't address T.S. as a he. You address T.S. as a she. You know, but Flame says you can, you know, I'm a he, she, we. Right. But I don't know if Flame even says you can. Flame might say, like you say, you can address me anyway.
To me, that's what you're saying. If you're saying that I'm he, she, we, I can address you as a he, a she, or a they, and you won't be offended. But if T.S. Madison, she's plainly said, I just want to be addressed as she. So for me to say he, you would be offended.
But Flame didn't say I am a they.
Well, I mean, when you say we,
Flame says
that's
he,
more than
she,
one.
we, but Flame didn't say I'm a they. What do you think about that, Slick? Because Flame didn't say I'm they or them. Flame says I'm he, she, we. So how would you? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, one thing. First, I want to say, like, yeah, I mean, I too sometimes slip up. You know, especially if you're used to referring to somebody as one way. My favorite example is Elliot Page. I've been thought of him as a trans man, but at the same time, he didn't officially state it and didn't, you know, at the time. So then I had to, in my mind, make sure, okay, you know, refer to she, and then he officially stated it. Now he's transitioning. Now it's back to he, and so, so yeah, like you were saying earlier, you know, there's a difference between an accident and, you know, purposeful.
Right.
But yeah, with Flame, you know, from a little bit that I saw, I took it as like a part of the joke. And the joke was that it's one word, he, she, we. Like, so there goes he, she, we. And, you know, me and he, she, we went to the park. But the joke is he, she, we, but it also means, like you were saying, you know, they can have any pronouns, all pronouns. They're cool with whatever. So that's
right. They won't be offended. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then here's a question. It says, do all people who transition have surgery? And I'm going to say no. I'm going to say a lot of them don't have surgery. I think on the whole, I mean, I don't know, but I'm from the ones who I know, because, you know, way back when I had my friend Scirocco in Cincinnati. She may have had the surgery now. I haven't seen Scirocco in over 20 years, but she may have had the surgery and stuff now. But some of my other friends, you know, they didn't have the surgery, and they look just, they were trans women, and they look just like gorgeous women. You know what I'm saying? But they didn't have the surgery, and to this day, they still don't have the surgery. There's some of them here that, that we don't know. There's some I know a couple of them I know personally. Some of them already died though, but they still had their parts because they still had them down.
They can't afford it.
Yeah, and I hear that I guess it's SRS surgery. Is that what it is? And then there's another one where you take hormones or something. Like you take hormones to move you in that direction before. Is that before you have the surgery? You think?
Yeah,
I don't think all of them have the surgery because T.S. Madison doesn't have the surgery, and she doesn't want the surgery.
Right.
She likes having both parts.
Yeah, it's a misconception that people think that all people who transition have had surgery or whatever. But some people are going to tell you right up front, like tits, I got tits on top, dick at the bottom, or whatever. But you can't just assume just because someone considers themselves as transitioning that they've had work done. Because it's just like whoever I am, whoever. Whatever your brain, whatever your heart is telling you who you are, whatever you feel that you are, that's who you are. And that I don't have to have a surgery to confirm who I am. But some people do. Some people do. I feel like I'm a female, so I'm going to have the surgery to confirm what I feel.
Alexa and Pose. Remember when we watched Pose? Alexa wanted that surgery, but the man, he says, if you have this surgery, I'm never having sex with you again. I'm not giving you any, I'm not taking care of you or whatever. She couldn't have it because that's what she felt that she needed to do to be complete. Everybody does, everybody's different. But I know Pose is just a movie, but it was kind of real. It was kind of based off of real different stuff.
Fiction be based on facts sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then we're almost about done here, actually. Businesses and stuff, now, I want to say this though.
What would you like?
So this right here, let me take this.
Okay, yeah, let me know because I was already about to go in on.
You was about to go in on what? Go ahead, go in. Go in on what you need to go in on.
Yeah.
So because growing up, I remember when they used to ask sex, male or female. And I'm like, okay, go to college, about like sex versus gender and stuff like that. And so I'm thinking, okay, like with all the, difficulties trans people we have, it was just really frustrating to see how quickly they changed from sex to gender, but still didn't include any other expansive, third option or even change male to, man, because technically male is for sex, not gender. And so it's like, wow. So it's one of those things where, when y'all want to change, you can. It's just clear, a lot of times they don't want to change.
Right.
But,
yeah, that's true.
That is, yeah.
That is. Okay. So then, what I was, I think I said this earlier that, everybody, baby, when we start off in the womb or whatever, we all start off as female. Everything starts off as female. Then a little bit down the line is where the penis and stuff starts growing or whatever and stuff. And then, so I don't understand why some people think that, like there's some people who don't think that people can have the internal organs. They can be internal or external of both parts, or the feeling, this is what I I'm born, you can have more, I guess, whatever type hormones or whatever, female hormones or whatever, even though, you may have developed the penis and stuff, like that. But I don't understand, why some people don't think that if you start off as female and then you're, then it starts growing, you grow into the male, why, it can not be, sometimes be both, you know what I'm saying? And then you have those feelings of, that I'm really a woman or I'm really a man, depending on, you see what I'm saying?
So I think, I can only speak to the, the experiences I've had. And so my answer to your question, one of the answers, I guess, would be, you have a lot of people that, especially in our area, we live in Texas, so we're in the Bible Belt. So you have a lot of people that are, they're Bible people, whatever. And so they believe that God makes us all, and he makes everyone perfect, just the way.
No mistakes.
No mistakes, no whatever. If you're male, you're male. If you're female, you're female. So they really have an issue, or they can't explain when someone has, both sexes, or they feel, they're born with one thing, but they feel that there's something else. Well, God doesn't make mistakes, and God, He's perfect, and whatever. So that there's an internal battle between like the Bible or whatever, or their beliefs of what the Bible says.
Oh, they can be staunch too.
Right,
They can be staunch.
Yeah, and it's like I'm not seeing it. No matter how you explain it, I don't care. Science, like we just talked about the fish, right? And how that, how nature, right? I don't care how much science and histories and surveys and polls or whatever you can pull up to prove your point. I'm gonna go with, in the beginning, God made male and female. So there's no way that you're going to get me to see that there's all these differences and there's all this whatever. You're confused. You're demon possessed. It's so I'm never going to see that. So that's what I've dealt with. Coming up in church or whatever, that people see that. I don't know the other reasons why people may have a bias against it or whatever, but I know that's one of the major ones is their religion or their Bible, so they have an issue with it. Yeah.
So let's talk about our labels. When I was coming up, it was just when I first started hearing the word gay, even though I was running around like a little gay boy at first grade, probably kindergarten, but the earliest I remember is first grade.
Oh my God.
Actually, doing whatever, liking boys and girls, but I liked them both. I didn't, but I did really like the boys, and I knew that in first grade. But
the muscles.
They didn't have the muscles back then. But then the term wasn't LGBTQ back in that time. It was just homosexual. They would say homosexual, sissy. You didn't even hear queer or fag, or anything like that. You heard homosexual, sissy, or punk. Those were the things. But the I guess the legal whatever terms was homosexual and then gay. That's what you heard. And then as I got older, by the time I was probably 18 or so, and then I met my gay friends, that's when I started hearing LGB. There wasn't the T or Q on there. It was just LGB, right? Or lesbian, gay, or bi. But back then too, gay also meant it also encompassed the lesbians. Also, it meant that you were either gay or lesbian, And then you started hearing about people being bi, because a lot of people didn't even want to say they were bi.
Right.
The ones that were, they used beards and stuff, like that to cover up their sexuality, or whatever. But if you just heard lesbian or gay, and then gay also encompassed lesbian. But then somewhere down the line that split, and then gay. The lesbians didn't include themselves in the gay, the gay whatever. So as much, yeah. And then a few years later, that's when I started hearing the LGBT and then Q. So then there was queer, and queer was supposed to encompass everything, whatever you wanted to, whatever you at that time, whatever was considered, what you considered yourself as lesbian, gay, bi, trans,
right.
Questioning, or whatever. It encompassed that, and it's supposed to encompass all of the gay community, or whatever. But then, so that's what queer was. It said queer is an umbrella term oftentimes used to categorize the entirety of the LGBTQ2+ community. Okay. And then, so what I did was, because of, I don't know if anybody else has done this or not, but I know we would be at work talking about it, when we're discussing like gay stuff, and we'd be watching stuff on YouTube, T.S. Madison stuff. Me and my friend Tony and Brandy and all of us will be watching different stuff there. And then, so I started saying, because they were asking me stuff, and then I would say, well, it's, it's LGBTQ plus or whatever. And I said, and L-M-N-O-P. And then they were like, well, what is L-M-N-O-P? And so I said, well, L-M-N-O-P, that's going to really encompass all of the terms and phrases that come, that come with the, in the queer umbrella that's coming after that. Because, we're still coming up with terms and words and stuff to help describe people, and pronouns and stuff to help, describe people, of what they want to be called or whatever. So I said L-M-N-O-P, and that's what we put in our title of our, that's in our, in our page. It's like, we talk about discussions of, the effect, and trending topics that affect the gay, lesbian, trans, bi, queer, L-M-N-O-P community. Right. And so my definition of what I have is L-M-N-O-P, because some people have asked me, why you say L-M-N-O-P instead of just, because you asked me that too. Why don't you just say, you remember when we were doing it, you said, why don't you just say LGBTQ? And then I said, well, because, with all the pronouns and stuff, out there, and people want to be noticed and called and defined as this or whatever. So I'll say L-M-N-O-P also. So for anything that comes, if there's 72,
that's what the Q is for.
Well, Q was really for queer questioning.
No. So I researched it, and the Q is actually for it also is for unsure. So the Q,
that's questioning. Unsure is questioning.
And so
there's been different variants. Yeah, there's been different variants. For instance, you had LGBT, then you had LGBTQ, then you had LGBTQIA, then you had LGBTQIA2 plus. And there's been different variants. So for instance, like the I is for intersex, A is for asexual. And there has been versions where the Q was queer, as in, everybody that's not, cishet. And then there's been the Q where it was like questioning. So, and then also there's been times where the A has been ally instead of asexual. And so that's why I like queer, because it's more for everybody, and then you say queer and ally.
So that's what but that's what I included the L-M-N-O-P.
It's like a joke
no, it wasn't a joke to me.
Well, I feel like
you put it as a joke. No, I didn't put it as a joke. I put it as because we still have more to come.
Because I've heard comedians say,
what's the M?
Right. No, what's the O? All the alphabets, and now, and then L-M-N-O-P, so I thought it was a joke.
Oh, no, it wasn't. It can be a joke, but it wasn't a joke to me, because L-M-N-O-P doesn't stand for any of it. It just means L-M-N-O-P, QRST, it just keeps going all the way down to L, so in case you add something else, that'll be,
and that's why I added the plus.
The plus.
That's why they added the plus. Right. Because like I said, you said 72. I didn't even. I think I saw that.
I think it's more now.
Yeah, I think it's
78.
probably going to keep growing.
I think, and that's why I said L-M-N-O-P, and then it can keep growing to L-M-N-O-P, QRSTUB.
And that's why they added that plus, because they're going to continue to add.
It's going to keep going.
Yeah, it's going to continue.
And then for our page, though, I just want to throw in, have us, have our separate us.
I thought it was humorous. Not that it was not that it was supposed to be offensive to anyone, but that it was just it was humorous, because baby, we are constantly evolving and growing, So you think we have all the alphabets now? Wait till you see down the line. We're going to cover all the alphabets. So L-M-N-O-P, Q, whatever. So that's how I took it or whatever. But yeah.
So then we got 2 more questions here, but I have let's elaborate a little bit on there. Should there be separate bathrooms for trans men, trans women, and what about competing in sports? Should you have separate sports? Should trans men and women be allowed to compete in? Should the trans women be allowed to compete in sports with heterosexual women, and should trans men be allowed to compete? When I was over my friend Deborah's in them house today, this came up, and then and they brought up like, well, what if a trans man, they transition and they trans, and they wanted to compete in boxing with Mike Tyson? You know what I'm saying? He's so strong with all that testosterone. There's no trans woman that's going to be able to compete with him. A trans man that's going to be able to compete with him at all. You see what I'm saying? So So what about, so let's talk about the bathrooms, because there has been discussion, and where I saw a week or two ago where a man, he was all in straight full men regalia. But he said he was trans, but he was he went into the trans woman's bathroom and he was shaving, but he had on everything on him. There was nothing on him that was a woman or whatever. And we know that it's how he feels inside, what he does. But should he have went into that woman's bathroom dressed as a man?
So we got to go back to this Mike Tyson thing.
Oh, okay.
So you're saying that, okay, I was born a woman, but now I'm transitioning to a man.
I have transitioned
to a man, and I'm in the Olympics or whatever. I guess that's where they compete. And now I want, or wherever, sports or whatever, and now I want to fight as a man. In the man's category, and the person that I'm fighting against is Mike Tyson. So what makes you think that this trans man is not able to come to the same standards or degree or whatever to fight Mike Tyson? It's almost like you're saying that because I was born a woman, that women are not as strong as men. Like what were you
there are some women who are stronger than men.
Yes.
But most women, because of the hormones and stuff that they have, even though that trans man could be taking testosterone, I still don't think that person would still have that strength that those fighters, or
so boxing, and I get what you're saying,
or even in a lot of sports, even running, they have tried it. They have ran, doing track and stuff, and they could not keep up with those men.
Okay, so I'm just gonna do boxing. So to me, boxing is not just strength, but it's also skill. So a woman can't win by her skill alone.
I don't think the skill is going to. I don't think the skill is going to help a woman in boxing with a man. And they're in those categories that those men have already been fighting.
Maybe she could tire that Mike Tyson out by doing whatever she tire him out, and then when he at his weakest, boom, and you out, because I have outthought you. Because women, they are smart. They outthink you. I mean, they can, and men can outthink women too. But I feel like if a woman is like on top of her game, and you would have to be if you're gonna get in the ring with Mike Tyson, then you might have the ability, you might have the ability to outskill him and not be so much on strength.
There's always anomalies.
Yeah,
always anomalies.
I get what you're saying.
There's exceptions to the rule, but I think on the whole, I don't think that a woman would be able to. I mean, there's some sports I'm sure that they can, trans men can get into, and be able to compete, but the majority of them, I don't think that they, those men have been competing in them sports for years and years and years and years, or whatever they've been doing, and the training and the weightlifting and all the stuff that they've done. Even though women can do that too, but they still don't build up that strength, that the men with that testosterone they've already had for all these years have, and it can be dangerous to me.
Testosterone makes you a better fighter.
No, I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah. But
that's stronger.
It gives you that strength, and these men have trained for this. Even though that woman has trained for it too much, but they haven't trained in it with these men. They've trained probably with other women before they train. It's just like Caitlyn, which I do not like Caitlyn Jenner. I just do not like Caitlyn Jenner. But just like now, like Caitlyn Jenner used to be, was a man and didn't play man sports and stuff like that. So if Caitlyn Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner is older now, so I don't know.
Okay.
But but then just say Caitlyn Jenner transitioned back then, had transitioned back then. Well, it would have still, I think it would have still been hard for a woman to compete, with Caitlyn Jenner, back then if Caitlyn Jenner had transitioned. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know, it's like almost an unfair matchup. I mean, like I say, I can be wrong, because I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that.
No, I like where you're going, whatever.
But it can be on either side, the male trans, and I would hate to see a trans man get into the boxing ring and next thing you know, they're dead.
Right.
Because one of those punches, even though if they're in with a trans woman is in with other women, that it could. It might, they might have a little bit of upper hand because they're actually taking the testosterone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you see what I'm saying? But they get in there with these heavyweights and these welterweights and stuff, and these men who have been training with that testosterone all that time. I don't see a woman, a trans man, really competing and coming out. They might survive, but I can see, I can see where they can. You get in there with Mike Tyson, and one punch they can end up dead. Just
I mean, anybody against Mike Tyson might end up dead.
Sometimes with his crazy self.
And let me say, I see where you're going. I totally agree. But I always like to have that sliver of, it could be or whatever. And then for you to even be considered, you have to prove that you're at these levels. So if you are even at a heavyweight or whatever, and you're fighting Mike Tyson, you must have proven yourself to be there. So it's not like I'm a heavyweight and then I'm with whatever. No, you would have to have proved yourself, because you wouldn't be at a heavyweight if you haven't proved it or whatever.
Well, that trans woman who went and competed with the other women, in that sport, and won but they still had testosterone flowing through their body that these other women didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And then that trans woman actually won, and to me, it wasn't evenly matched, even though the trans woman still had taking estrogen and doing that stuff, but they still had that testosterone, huh?
What sport was it? Because I thought most of the times, or at least all the sports, like they would require, not only do you have to identify as a trans woman, but you have to actually have been like on like hormone replacement and have actually progressed enough in regards to like muscle mass and bone density and having like an absence of testosterone. So that's why I was wondering like which sport was it? Because like I said, I thought most of them, they require you to be like physically on par.
Yeah, on the equal.
I think it was boxing, maybe.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was boxing. I'll have to go back and look. And the trans woman was this tall, and all the other women were.
Oh wow!
But that didn't have anything to do with it. But the trans woman, you can still see the muscular, man. I could still see that. Even though you presented as a woman, I could still see that testosterone. I saw
they're an athlete, so
right.
They're an athlete, so I mean, I would expect even a lot of women. For instance,
all the women have a problem.
Don't hate on me, but the tennis player,
yeah,
they got muscular because they're athletes. That's what they do.
Just like Martina Navratilova, all of them, they were muscular and stuff like that. But they would have a hard time competing against the men. They even said that too, because they have competed against the men, just not for medals and stuff, like that. They were just competing for charities and stuff, like that, and they didn't win. Whatever. I mean, it sometimes men, not all, because some of us can be very weak. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of times the endurance and the strength that we have with that testosterone, it's a little bit different than than with even women, trans women once they start taking. Trans men once they start taking testosterone, it still doesn't even. Yeah, it can be.
I think it also goes back to the sex as a spectrum thing, because there's some women that have high testosterone naturally, and then there's some men that have low testosterone. So even knowing that she transitioned isn't enough to let us know about her physiology and biochemistry before transitioning. So for instance, I was reading through some of the archives on queer history, And even back in the day, before they had any type of surgery, any type of medicine, there were some trans women that were passing as grown adults, stripping for men that didn't know they were trans, because again, sex be a spectrum. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do y'all think about the bathroom issue then? Should trans men go into women's bathroom, and should trans men go into male bathrooms, and should trans women go into female bathrooms? And then the other thing is, if you're not portraying on the outside, if you're not portraying the physical characteristics of a trans man or a trans woman, should you go in there? Because the women, like if a trans woman goes in there and they're in full male regalia, and then that's to me, that freaks out the women more than it freaks out a trans man going into the men's bathroom. I don't think the men care, whether the trans man goes into the women's bathroom. I don't hear much on that, but every time you hear about most of the time you hear about a trans woman going into the women's bathroom, Now, if they're like, say they got their makeup on, their eyelashes, the hair, the clothes and stuff, like that, that might not be an issue, because a lot of times they might not even know that that's a trans man, a trans woman. But what about the ones if they just go in there and they look like they're a trans man? They're trans. They're trans, but they look like a man, and they don't have on they may have on the stuff, but they don't. But you can tell that it's a trans man. How do y'all feel about that?
So I'm going to try to put myself in a female's mind or whatever. So and I kind of know, because I didn't always work in corporate America or whatever, but I've had jobs where I've had to I worked at a grocery store, so I had to go clean out the women's restroom. And so I kind of know how a women's restroom is, right? So the difference between our men's restroom and a women's restroom is men's restroom have the urinals, right?
And we have stalls.
Yeah, exactly. And we have stalls. But when a woman's restroom only has stalls.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm a trans woman and I'm coming in, and I'm speaking of the ones that give you the woman,
Mm-hmm.
If I'm coming in, as a woman, I feel like I wouldn't care. You presenting as a woman, you look like a woman, and you're going into a stall. So whatever you got going on, I don't even see it. I don't even notice it. All I see is a woman just entered the door, and she went into a stall, and she's doing her business. And so I wouldn't have a problem with that. Now, when you come out and you wash your hands and all that kind of stuff, hopefully you wash your hands.
How many times I heard the flush and then the door close?
But when you come out, I still see you as a woman. So to me, and like I said, I'm putting myself in their shoes, I really wouldn't have a problem with it. Now, if you come in and you, in your mind, you're presenting as a woman, but physically you're not, I can see where that may be an issue, because you're like, okay, a dude just came in the women's restaurant. Well, hello, what's going on? You know what I mean? But at the same time, you're still going into a stall. You know what I mean? And you're doing whatever you're doing. So I'm not seeing nothing. You're not seeing nothing unless I'm taking my clothes off in the bathroom. Who does that or whatever? But and we're in a gym bathroom is different. I'm just thinking of like regular bathrooms, like at a restaurant or whatever. I know gyms can be a little different,
and they do have unisex bathrooms. And
they have unisex bathrooms, so they can make those. But a lot of businesses don't have those or whatever. So yeah, that's my take on it. So yeah, Slick, what you think, Slick?
I honestly don't see the need for them to be gendered to begin with. I've been in plenty spaces that had both men and women, and those of us in between or outside, and everybody just used the bathroom. It wasn't a big deal. In fact, it actually felt a little safer because there were more people able to come in and out of the bathroom. So in that sense, nobody was ever like left alone. and so where you might have that instance where if it's gendered, then there might be one bathroom that's not in use as much, and then that's used as a way to, nefarious things or whatever. So yeah, that's why I don't really even feel like, I mean, there's really necessarily a need for it to be separate like that. But if there was, I mean, I could kind of sympathize with, people feeling a bit not at ease seeing somebody that's not presenting as the gender that's supposed to be for that particular bathroom.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel like that's a part of the people getting educated, seeing that not everybody is a danger. Ideally they would not be gendered at all or have third options. So yeah, that's how I feel.
Okay. Yeah. All righty. And then so our last one is like a lot of businesses and corporations, like at the hospital, I started noticing, mainly just over the last year, maybe the last year or 2 years, year and a half or something. I had started 2 years. I had started noticing in the emails when they were coming across that like our HR person had put in there, her. What'd you say?
Let's look at that.
Oh, okay.
Right back.
Okay. They had put in there, her, she, hers, and hers, or whatever. And I started, so I think they didn't make us do that, whatever, but they were being more inclusive and allowing you to put, his, him, or whatever, or, hers and hers, where you're allowed to put your pronouns in. And then I was talking to my friend, me and Dre were talking to Larry today, and he was the one who suggested this, where he was saying, like at his job, Visa, they're requiring you to put your pronouns in the in your emails, in your applications and resumes and stuff, so they know how to address you and stuff, like that. So what do y'all think about that?
I think it's good progress. I think it should be applauded. I feel like we are getting to a place where we're coming to understand the differences that we may have, or we're just being more open to who people are and how they choose to present themselves. So I think it's a great advancement, and I'm all for it. Yeah, Slick.
Yeah. I mean, I found it, like, for me, it's just been a rare thing that companies even ask. So yeah, kudos for them for going, even a step further. And it's one of those things where I feel like there's like faux resistance to it, because if most of the people that don't want to specify their pronouns will get mad at you if you don't use the right pronouns. So, make up your mind.
Exactly.
And also, in a sense, no response is a response. If they don't want to put it, back to, if I use a wrong pronoun, you didn't specify. So,
Yeah. And I was telling Alvin earlier, I work in HR, and we've had people that, will be freshly hired with the company, and they would say that, this agreement that you want me to sign only has he pronouns. Well, our legal department has made provisions for that. So if you go, further down into the agreement, there's a clause that says, where there is a masculine pronoun, it can be substituted for the feminine. So they've made, provision for the feminine pronoun. I mean, of course they could go back and make it he/she or whatever, but they just went ahead
neutral.
Or neutral, right? But they went in. So the clause is like, it's like gender, and under it says where there's masculine, it can be substituted or something like that for feminine or whatever. So they made provisions for it or whatever. But a lot of times when they see the agreement, the first thing they see is the he, him, or whatever. They don't go further down to say, oh, we've also made, provisions for if you are masculine. I mean, if you are feminine, or, a female or whatever, or if you choose to not, be non-binary or whatever. We make provisions for that or whatever. So yeah, that does come up sometimes. But like I said, a lot of companies are progressing, and I applaud them for doing that, and not being so close-minded or being, just in one little mindset of how the world is progressing.
So should it be required? Should it be required? You think it should be required for all businesses, or no?
I don't know if it should be required. I mean, because you're
I feel on the human rights sort of side of it, in respect, I think they really should, because we do know rhetoric, filters down. It creates a certain type of workplace culture. And again, I mean, we're going to use pronouns one way or the other. So it goes back to, like I say, do you want to specify, or we can just use whatever we want? So just like, I mean, nobody had an issue when, all these years they've been asking for sex, and then, the noun, not the verb. And, you put male is, in the same vein as that. Why is it?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I can see that.
Okay. So our last, it's not really it's a question. So as I said, it says, are we being distracted over the pronoun debate by the right-wing Republicans, as they are working in the background to strip away what I'm gonna say, all of our human rights? They're using this to distract us, so we concentrate on this and stuff, and we're not paying attention to what they're actually, for the other stuff that they're actually doing to us to strip away our human rights. And I'll throw a little political question in there. What do y'all think about that?
For me, I think a lot of things that the Republican Party, or just the way society is always trying to put us in a negative light. They think we're weirdos. They think we're perverted. They think just because you're gay that you could possibly be a pedophile or a molester or whatever. So they're always putting us in this negative light or whatever. And especially the Republican Party. Democrats are a little bit more liberal or whatever. But yeah, I just feel like, I mean, let it go, guys. It's almost like you have an issue. It's almost like when we're talking about the religion thing, most of the preachers that talk so much about gay are secretly struggling with it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the Republicans that seem like this is such a big issue, you may be secretly struggling with this whole area. You're probably sexing transsexuals or whatever.
They're sexing everybody. Yeah. They pass laws against stuff that they're doing. Right. They're doing all this stuff. Exactly. I ain't gonna say all of them, but a lot of them are doing this stuff. They pass laws against, our human rights and against sexuality. They have passed these laws, but they're doing it.
Right, exactly.
And then when they get caught, then they want to say, "Oh, the Lord, please, God, help me." I'm just a man, and I'm human, and God forgives me. They'll go through that whole diatribe,
right.
But but they're doing it, and they're gay and bisexual and trans and stuff themselves, just like Caitlyn Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner, she's a Republican, and she puts out propaganda and says stuff against the gay community, against trans, against and it ticks my damn bubble that and I'm gonna say that I hate, that heifer. One, they gave her the woman of, never mind. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It just ticks my bubble that she won that award,
Right.
And I don't even know I don't even know how to go further with that,
See, that's where I think, standards, they're, like I say, we're just getting some breathing room. And I do think there needs to be a certain amount of standards, because I think she hadn't even been, socially out for what was it, like a whole year before they put her on Woman of the Year. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, even if you think about it, like, cisgender people, whatever, growing up, before you get the woman or man label, you're 18 years in. You know, like I said, she like barely a whole year. Like, okay,
Yeah.
Not to mention as many, other, trans women been out, been on the
Right.
grind.
Doing all type of stuff out there to progress human rights and all type of stuff. How this happened?
Right.
Exactly.
Right. And yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like it's a big distraction. Like y'all were saying, a lot of times the stuff they complain about is stuff they're doing themselves, or
Right.
people in their affiliation, or employment, whatever. And yeah, and then it's to distract for the fact that they're also just basically defending people's right to lie,
Right.
and like deadly lies on top of that. It's not even like, oh, they lied about, going to wherever, it's like lying about, medical information and stuff like that. Like when we're in a pandemic, like they're putting up more of a fight for that, than they are ensuring that everybody can vote or have a national day so everybody can, take off time to go vote. Stuff like that actually is central to their job as a representative for the well-being of their constituents. That part, it's hand wavy and we'll get to it later or whatever. But, when it comes to, what we doing in our bedroom or, how, we present and stuff like that, they're all over it. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Dre, what you just said there, Dre, many of them use it as deflection to keep the attention off of themselves. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, what did you say, Charles? You said both they both are beautiful.
So I think somebody was just joking. She I guess it's a girl, I don't know. She said Shantae or Dante. Yeah. I'm like, they both are beautiful.
Yeah.
What Dre said something.
So yeah, let's see what Dre said.
Republican Glenn Thompson voted for an anti-gay marriage law. Respect for Marriage Act, and attended his gay son's wedding 3 days later. Reflecting, right?
Oh my God.
What type of family values is that? Like in regards to valuing and actually protecting your kids? What type of value is that? Like,
yeah, they're a hot mess. Just a hot mess.
It is.
So and Dre said deflecting.
Right, yeah. Deflecting.
So but that, hey, Slick, thank you for joining us today, and thank all of the people in our chat and the people who are watching us and the ones who are going to come and watch us later. We appreciate y'all, Slick. We really appreciate you coming here. You helped us a lot.
Thank you.
Some of it we were sitting here like, we might have been in a dilemma of, are we going to get it right or are we going to say the wrong thing?
Right.
And then you helped us clarify a lot of this. We really appreciate you, and we thank you for actually joining us in our lives and stuff you've been in them before. And we thank you this time for coming in, and come join us anytime you want.
Please.
And we might ask you again or something.
Definitely.
And then if you want to come in and join it, we'll sit out to anybody else who want to come in and join in our conversation. Let us know. We do want to actually have a trans debate, like a actual trans conversation, and maybe get some other trans in, you're
non-binary girls, yeah.
We can get some that are, think this way or believe this way or whatever. If you're out there, hit us up. Let's get into this discussion and debate and get this going and stuff. So, but we really appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
And all the people out there in the world that's watching.
Thank you all.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All righty.
Okay. So my final thoughts are basically just be respectful. If someone says that these are the pronouns I use, just go with that. Because sometimes you're not going to be able to see, right when you're looking at them in person. They may present themselves one way, but want to be called something else. So whatever they have chosen to be, referred as, just respect that and go with that. And if you make a mistake, hey, we're gay and we make mistakes. So for you guys that aren't, or even if you are gay just like us, we're gonna make the mistakes, because it's not something that you can just see all the time, and even if you see it, you could be wrong, like, I've improved that with Slick, even though I see, I still don't know, but once Slick, made it clear and, explain, why it's this or that, then we were able to be respectful. And, I know I probably slipped up a little bit even throughout the show or whatever, but it's gonna happen. But in all that we do, we just want to be respectful and just respect each other and be considerate of how people view themselves. So, but this is really good because there's so many pronouns. I mean, like we said, the list is probably going to increase and increase and increase or whatever. So we got a lot of learning and studying to do, but to me, the foundation is just respect. Just respect each other. Yeah. But yeah, thank you everybody for joining us. We'll see you next week, same time, 6 o'clock. I gotta get ready. My friends want to go out, so
Where y'all going to on premise?
No, it's two
Marty's?
premise, one of Marty. Yeah.
No, people are still at on premise. It's 8:15.
Yeah, but anyway, we'll see y'all later.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. Appreciate y'all. Bye.
Bye.